Hello guys, welcome to Bhavana's Online Academy. So in this video we are going to learn SA-250. So this video is going to be a complete coverage of SA-250 plus this is going to be applicable for both inter as well as final student. Yes, so without any further ado, let's get into the video. So SA-250, what does it talk about? What does the topic talk to you about? It says consideration of laws and regulations in an audit of FS. That means in this standard we are going to see about the laws and regulations and how is it going to have an effect on our audit and on our financial statements. In the audit of financial statements, how these laws and regulations are going to have an effect on it. Yes, so before we get into the SA-250, like we always discuss about the standards, let me briefly explain you what this standard talks about. So the standard tells you, see, in India, there are a lot of laws and regulations that a company has to follow. Now, these can be bifurcated into two parts. One is the laws and regulations that is going to have a direct effect on your financial statements, and the other one is an indirect law and regulation that will not have a direct effect on your financial statements. Now, what are the examples of these direct laws and regulations? Suppose your income tax. Yes, so income tax, like you calculate your income and the tax you pay and everything is going to be having a direct impact on your FS. Okay, if you comply with this laws and regulations, or if you don't comply with this laws and regulations, everything is going to have a direct impact on your FS. Whereas if you see indirect laws, now let's take an example of indirect law, which is your environmental law. Okay, like you have to keep the environment neat and clean, or suppose your pollution act and all of that. No, so here what happens is that these laws and regulations, if the company is going to follow, then well and good. It will not have any impact on the financial statements. But what if the company is not following such laws? What if the company is doing some non-compliance of such laws? What if they are not maintaining the environment properly or polluting it a lot? So in such case, the non-compliance of these laws and regulations will have an effect on FS. So the compliance of this law and regulation will not have no impact on FS, but the non-compliance of such law and regulation is going to have an effect on FS. Like how is it going to have an effect? You will have to pay some penalty, some fine, or in such forms. So that will have an effect on your financial figures. So yes, so let me summarize it quickly. So there are two laws and regulations. One is direct, one is indirect. Direct one will have direct effect on your financial statements, whereas indirect laws will only have effect on financial statements when there is a non-compliance. Yes, so auditor will be concerned with the direct laws and regulations plus indirect laws and regulations where there is a non-compliance. Yes, so yes, I hope I was able to give you a brief idea on what SA-250 speaks about. Now let's get into the standards. Okay, so first what this tells is, first it speaks about the entity or the management's responsibility towards this laws and regulation. It tells you, listen, management, it is your responsibility to prevent and detect any non-compliance. You should take care of laws and regulations. The auditor is not going to come and take care whether you're preventing, detecting the non-compliance. The management or the entity will have the responsibility for the prevention and detection of non-compliance in case of any laws and regulations. So it has to make sure that all the laws and regulations are being followed and are being complied. Okay, so for this purpose, for the management's responsibility, what steps can the management take so that it is making sure that all the laws and regulations are being followed in the company? What are the steps it can implement, or what are the policies and procedures that the management can implement so that all the laws and regulations are being followed in the company? So totally here around 7 steps are given. So you can remember this as MSD meme, the short form. First, they are telling you that you have to monitor what and all legal requirements are there, that what and all you have to comply. First, monitor that and know that. Second, you have to place an internal control system. Place such a control in your company that every month automatically there is some reminder which is sent to the employee or the personnel who have to pay taxes, etc. So place some kind of a good internal control system in your company. Yes. Third, they are saying is that develop a code of conduct. Develop a code of conduct means develop such a conduct in your company that all the employees or whoever is working in the company knows that what has to be done when. Okay, you have to develop. Basically in your school they will have this manual where they will tell you how you have to behave in the school, what kind of conduct you have to have in a school. The same way, what kind of conduct you should have in a company so that all the policies and procedures are being followed, you have to develop that. Next is they are saying monitor the compliance of the COC. COC means Code of conduct. So now whatever code of conduct you have developed here, make sure you're monitoring that. Next is you have to train your employees properly so that they know when and how they have to comply with this laws and regulations. Then they are saying you can also maintain a register, like means they are saying you can maintain a book where all the laws and regulations are given and all the due dates are given and all of that. And finally you have to engage any legal advisors if you want, so okay, on how we can do better at this area or how we can comply better at this area. So all these things you have to remember. So what is the short form? MSD mean monitor legal requirements, system of internal control, develop code of conduct, monitor it, train the employees, maintain a register, and hire legal advisors. Okay. So this is how a management is going to fulfill its responsibility of preventing and detecting. Okay. So now that we have discussed how the management has to take care of it, next we are going to understand how does an auditor have to fulfill its duty. Okay. So here for auditor, what they are telling you is that auditor, see here you have to follow one, two, three, four steps. Yes. And by doing this, you are going to fulfill your responsibility of duties related to the laws and regulations. So here first they are telling you, see, now before we get into this entire standard, let me tell you first that we spoke about direct and indirect effect laws and regulations, right? So here they are saying whenever there is any law and regulation which has a direct effect on the FS and it has a material effect on the FS, then in such case an auditor has to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence about it. Please make sure you obtain evidence that all those direct and material laws and regulations which are going to have an effect on FS are being complied with, are being complied on time, proper payment has been done. Please obtain audit evidence related to it. So what you can do, maybe you can get the challan copy of the payment that has been made, maybe you can check the due dates and you can check when the payment has been made to check everything has been complied properly. So like that you can perform a few procedures and obtain evidences about it. Okay. In case of laws and regulations which will not have a direct effect on FS, like your child law, your environmental law, your pollution law, and all of that, for that your responsibility as an auditor is very, very limited. If it is being complied, no need to worry. Only you have to check the non-compliances. So here they are telling you that you just perform specific audit procedures that will help you identify as an auditor whether any non-compliance has happened and whether if there is any non-compliances, that's does it have a material effect on FS or not. If it does not have a material effect on FS, if it's like only 50 rupees, 60 rupees, something like minimum, very minimum effect, then you can leave it. Okay. So this is your responsibility as an auditor. Now let's understand what are the steps. So the first one is that as an auditor, please obtain a general understanding, okay, that what and all legal laws or legal regulations that the industry as a whole is following. Suppose your client is working in a telecom industry, so then what and all laws and regulations are applicable in a telecom industries, that and all you have to get an understanding about. Okay. And you have to understand what are the laws and regulations that is being applicable on your client or on the entity and how the entity is complying with it, what rules, what procedures do you have, sorry, the client has. Yes. So about that you have to get a general understanding. Second is you have to perform audit procedures. You have got an understanding, now perform audit procedures. You have to perform audit procedures relating to direct and material effect on FS laws and regulations, as well as laws and regulations which will not have direct effect. Okay. For this I've told you what you have to do here. In specifically in case of direct and material effect on FS, those laws and regulations, you can do an inquiry with the management or TCWG also. You can ask them, in the current year what happened, were you able to comply with everything, was there any non-compliance, like that you can make an inquiry with the management or TCWG. As well as you can do an inspection of correspondence. What is this correspondence? So from the regulatory or legal authority, you might have got any letter, any order, anything that you have got from a legal or regulatory authority, that is known as a correspondence, a way of communication that you have got from the legal authority, that you can inspect to check whether they said anything about any penalty, any non-compliance or compliance or whatever they have said. Okay. So those two things you can do to make sure that this part of direct and material laws and regulations are being complied with and everything you have checked and known. So those audit procedures you can perform. So after performing the audit procedures, please make sure throughout this you're maintaining an attitude of professional skepticism and you're always remaining alert in all situations. Yes. And finally you can get a return representation from the management or TCWG stating that management or TCWG have disclosed whatever known non-compliances have happened during the year. The management and TCWG has disclosed to an auditor, like that please take a return statement from them, please take a return representation from them also. Okay, because it is their duty to tell the auditor, no, first, that whatever non-compliance was there in the company, so please make sure you get a return representation from them. So these are the four steps that an auditor's responsibility, that what he has to do in such case. Yes. Next, you are saying, in case if you find any non-compliance, in case an auditor finds any non-compliance, first, if auditor has some suspicion or if he knows that any non-compliance has happened, then in such case he has to obtain an understanding of what is the nature of such non-compliance, to what extent, to what amount, to which law has non-compliance has happened, and if there is any further information he wants to know about it, on like what possible effect it can have on the FS. So those about that he can obtain an information. Yes. So once that is done, if there is a suspected non-compliance, then first you have to go and discuss with the management or TCWG. Okay. If the management or TCWG is not providing you any evidence, or if they are not telling you any sufficient information, you are not able to obtain any sufficient information from the management or TCWG, then please obtain legal advice on what you have to do next. Okay. And finally, with everything that you have understood and taken, please, as an auditor, evaluate what implications can such non-compliance have on your audit opinion. Okay. So this is what you have to do in case of a non-compliance. Either you have identified a non-compliance or you have suspected a non-compliance. In both the cases, you have to follow the following procedures. Yes. Okay. Next, they are telling you as an auditor. So, see, first you performed audit procedures, then you saw some non-compliance, and what you did about it, they have given here. Then finally, they are saying what are your reporting responsibilities. First, related to TCWG. So, they are here telling you, if you think that the non-compliance was there, which was intentional or material, then in such case, please communicate it to the TCWG as soon as possible. Okay, that you have to do first. Second, they are saying, if you think the TCWG itself is involved in this, then please communicate it to the next level, any higher authority than the TCWG. Okay, it may be either an audit committee or a supervisory board. But if you think that there is no such authority more than TCWG in the company, then in such case you can obtain legal advice. Okay, first communicate to TCWG. If you think they are involved, communicate to the next level. If there is no next level, obtain legal advice. So this was related to reporting responsibilities related to TCWG. To TCWG, how you have to report. Next is in an auditor's report. In your audit report, what you have to report. If you think the non-compliance has a material effect on the FS and the same has not been reflected on the FS, sometimes what will happen, the FS will be there. In the client itself will disclose, such and such non-compliance we have did in the year and this was the impact. But if you think the client has not disclosed the same has not been reflected in the FS and it has a material effect, then in such case you can pass a qualified opinion or an adverse opinion. Okay. And the next one, what they are telling you here is that as an auditor, okay, if you feel that you wanted to obtain some audit evidence, okay, you're not very sure whether there is a non-compliance happened or not, or whether there is a material effect or not, but you wanted to obtain some audit evidence, but the management or TCWG precluded you. They said no, they discouraged you from getting the audit evidence. Then in such case, in such case also you can give a qualified or disclaimer opinion. Okay, I hope you understood this here. Disclaimer opinion, because you are not able to find out the audit evidence, you are not able to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. Okay, got it. So first, what you have to report to TCWG. Next, what you have to report in the audit report. Next is to the regulatory authorities, in if any, what you have to report. So you have to see whether you have any responsibility to report to any outside entity if there is a non-compliance. If yes, then do your work accordingly. So that's all they have said here. Not much they have told about here. And the final topic that we have to see here is, what are the indicators of non-compliance? When will an auditor be suspected that there might be some non-compliance here? When will you get alert? What are the situations where you have to get alert and understand that a non-compliance can happen? First is that, see if in the company has hired any legal consultant during the year, maybe they must have made some non-compliance, so they wanted to seek legal advice. Next is, see if there are any increase or decrease in the market prices significantly. They have made a purchase at a very high level market price or a low level market price, so that if there are any unusual payments in cash, if they have paid any legal fees, they have made any transaction in a tax haven company. Okay, that means tax haven means where you can basically there is no tax levied or very less amount of tax levied in such. Have they made any unusual transactions there? check their information system, where do we get any a record from that or not. Okay, and then next what you can do is you can check their records, you can check if you can get any documentation. Next is see if they have made any transaction with other than original country. That means directly from Singapore to India one transaction should have happened, but they're taking it to Singapore, then they are routing it to Dubai, and then they are bringing it to India. Why have they routed it like this when they could have directly brought it in? So see if there is any other than original country transaction where the transaction have been routed from somewhere else. See if the media has made any adverse comment about this company related to their laws and regulations. So all these are indicators of non-compliance of laws and regulations. Okay, so using this you can find out if there is non-compliance, and the short form of this the keyword, or rather say the mnemonic for this is C multi road. So by this you can remember. Okay, so now let's quickly run through what the standard speaks about now that we have completed the standard. So first it says that it is the management's responsibility to check the non-compliance. For this purpose, management can put in following procedures. And then what was the auditor's responsibility? He has to obtain general understanding, he has to perform audit procedures, he has to maintain a skeptic attitude, and then finally he has to get a return representation. So when he finds out any non-compliances, what is his role, what is his duty, then who and all he has to report to the TCWG in the audit report, and plus as well as in the regulatory authority if he has to report. Finally, if there is any non-compliance, what are the indicators that you can see? Okay, how will you get the smell of non-compliance? Is they have given you a few indicators by which an auditor can remain alert. If he sees any of these, he can think that here non-compliance could have happened. Yes, so this was SA-250. I hope you understood this. The notes of SA-250 you will find it in my Telegram channel, the link for which will be in the description box below, and the other standards playlist will also be in the description box below. So do check out that, and if you found this video helpful, please make sure to like, share, and also subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much.